beyond.
Good evening, one and all, and welcome to the final edition of Beyond 3D for the year 2016. Matt and Clint here, ready to celebrate the end of 2016 and the beginning of 2017. So how are you, Clint?
You are not joking. You are not joking. We had a massive storm that hit the peninsula here on Thursday, was it? Thursday night. Mm-hmm. After I finished work, I had borrowed a van and I was on my way to get a part from a car yard to fix the Batmobile.
Yep.
Needed an alternator, but I had to get there to order it.
Yep.
So I was 20 minutes away.
Yes, indeed.
10 minutes away from where I had to be. I had a blowout at 100 Ks on the freeway in this borrowed van.
And it didn't flip.
No, I managed to course correct it, but when I pulled over, it was like a biblical flood. And I had literally, like I said, it happened at, I had 20 minutes, so I had to get out in this borrowed van, and look for all the tools to change this tyre, which the rim was actually in the dirt. I had to get underneath the van in the belting down rain, and of course, the car jack was a 3-piece telescopic arm, and the middle part decided to keep falling out as I'm cranking the damn thing in a nice brand new clean white t-shirt laying in the gravel and the mud.
As you do.
Thinking to myself, I cannot wait to see the back of 2016.
I'll tell you what. What did we get? 30 mils of rain in 30 minutes?
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I just laid under the van laughing to myself thinking,
What can you do?
What can you do? You just got to keep pushing forward.
Absolutely.
And that's all we've done all year. I mean, both you and I have been running on empty.
Oh, well, it's life.
But we pick ourselves up and we do this each week for everybody because, hey, it's
worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Well, guys, hopefully you've had a better 2016 than a lot of people out there have, especially those that were visited by the Grim Reaper.
What a year.
Outrageous. I'll bet you one thing, though. I'll bet you if we really did the research on it, we will find out it is no more or no less than any other year, I would think. It's just with the advent of internet and all the information that we have at our fingertips now, bam, we see it all.
I think the death of George Michael off the back of other prominent recording artists that have passed away this year was just like, no more. No more. 2016 stole all my jams.
Stole a lot. Whole lot.
David Bowie, Prince, George Michael, just bang, bang, bang. They're my three big ones.
Glenn Fry. You lost two-thirds. You lost 2/3 of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I mean, sheesh.
And Princess Leia.
Yes, indeed. Her mom.
And her mum, like less than 24 hours later, heart attack as well.
What do you do? The Grim Reaper should be Person of the Year on Time Magazine cover.
Are they peanut M&Ms?
Yes, they are peanut M&Ms. We love peanut M&Ms.
You love peanut
No, my
M&Ms.
daughter got me some for Christmas time, so I'm sitting here having a few, imbibing and looking at other things like that, getting ready for the new year, really.
I'm a big fan of the crispy myself.
You know, they didn't have crispy M&Ms growing up. They had plain and peanut. That's it.
We didn't have M&Ms.
No, not vanilla, not pineapple, not caramel, none of this malarkey.
Did you say caramel?
Yeah.
Instead of caramel?
No, caramel.
Oh, yeah, because you're American.
Yeah. It's caramel? Is that what you say?
I'm not going to correct you.
Well, no. That's the whole thing. So they never, it was two things, plain and peanut. Then they had good ones. They had almond ones. Now those.
Oh, boy.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Anyway, we digress. It's been an interesting year.
You digress.
Yeah, I digress. All right, fine, I digress. But it's been an interesting year. It's been an interesting year for us here at Beyond 3D. And we had some great guests on, and we are going to go forward into 2017 and have even better people coming on this show and really getting the information out. So I thought the best way to start would be for us to wax philosophic about we think the top trends going forward in 2017 will be in the field of cryptozoology, in the field of earth changes, in the field of UAPs and UFOs and all that kind of stuff.
You mentioned cryptozoology, and I tell you what I have seen a lot of lately.
Yeah.
Science going in search of Mokele Mbembe.
Explain.
Mokele Mbembe is a Congo word for, best way I can describe it, Diplodocus.
Explain.
Well, over the last 50, 60 years, there's been reported sightings of a herd of Diplodocus or Brachiosaurus in the Congo.
You just mentioned that and something just popped into the Fron, Stargate reference.
Hang on, let me just turn on Frogger.
No, you don't. No. I read something in the last week about dinosaurs or a person being either killed or something by a dinosaur. I'm going to have to look it up, and I know I've seen it this week.
This year I've seen unearthed footage of mammoths taken from up above, like a cliff top, from a passing train. Yeah. I've seen archival Nazi footage of Ornithomimus, those ostrich-looking dinosaurs out of Jurassic Park, not the velociraptors, but the ones with the long whippy tail, the ostrich-looking ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen video footage of the old archival footage of them. And like I just mentioned before, Mokele Mbembe, which Congo name for this particular type of dinosaur. So what cryptozoologists did, many different kinds of teams have gone into the Congo looking for this beast, and they'll take a book of dinosaurs and show the natives the book and say, find a picture of what it is that you saw, and every different tribe around the Congo pick a Brontosaurus, Brachiosaurus type dinosaur.
Wow.
That apparently the hippos in the area just clear out. Totally clear out.
You can clear out a hippo, there's something going on.
Yeah, well, they're nothing to mess with.
No, not at all.
I mean, they can snap a man in half.
The most dangerous animal on that continent? Heck with lions or anything like that. Heck with hyenas. Hippo.
Yeah, hippo.
Not nice. That's very interesting. I didn't know a lot. Yeah.
Mokele Mbembe.
Very interesting indeed.
So you mentioned cryptozoology as being an up-and-coming trend for this year. Yeah, what else?
Well, we constantly talk about it, but disclosure.
We constantly have been talking this year about Antarctica.
I was going to bring that up.
And just this morning, there were stories about John Kerry.
Okay, yeah.
And we covered that months ago.
We did.
Repeatedly covered that months ago. So that's a hot topic at the moment in exopolitics.
Yeah, well, with John Kerry, I still say he looks like the farmer from the first Men in Black movie after the cockroach took over his body and...
Oh, yep.
Yeah. That whole... It looks like there's something underneath there hiding.
Yes.
When you look at him now. Rubber. And what's that Jim Carrey movie? The Mask.
The Mask.
Yeah, something... It's weird when you... Watch. Look at any video of this guy now. Really, really weird.
Okay.
I'll bring up a picture and everybody can see just how weird he is, and I'll put it up on the Facebook page. It is really weird.
Okay.
I look at him and I just... No, there's something going on there.
Has his appearance changed much over the years? Or does he still look like a human being but with no soul?
I don't think it's a no soul thing. I just think
when
it's
you're looking
some
at him,
alien underneath that skin.
Well, when you look at him, sometimes you look at somebody and you go, that's a person, but looks like an empty vessel.
No, to me it looks like there's an alien hiding underneath that.
Okay.
And he was somehow taken over. That's what it looks like to me.
I saw footage this week also that someone took inside a Russian nightclub, and the power went out.
Yeah.
And there were three humanoids, human beings in this crowd. But when the power went off, only those three people had eye shine. And what I mean by eye shine, human beings don't have eye shine. We don't have reflective lenses. So, like when you're on safari, for example, and they have those big high-powered torches, and they search the scrub, and they get the eye reflecting.
Yes.
Well, the lights went off in this Russian nightclub, and there were three people that had glowing white eyes, and they quickly, in the footage, you see them closing their eyes and moving off into the crowd.
Stargate reference, the Goa'uld. Anytime you saw a human being that was possessed, the first thing you would see is
the eyes would shine and glow. Interesting. In Russia. Interesting. Eye shine. I'm telling you, this all kinds of stuff is coming out now. All right, disclosure. I think that the more of the disclosure I'm talking about now, I think there's going to be spiritual disclosure. In other words, the scientific community is going to finally admit the existence of God.
I paused when I was about to speak there, and I'm sorry about that. I had an interesting conversation with somebody the other day about the scientific community and spirituality. Mm-hmm. Now, you go see a chiropractor or a physiotherapist, and they treat an injury in your body.
Right.
But what they're actually treating is the flesh and blood injury. Mm-hmm. But usually a lot of the times those flesh and blood injuries are triggered by spiritual injuries as well, aren't they?
Yes.
That manifest in the body.
For it to manifest in the body, it has to come through all of the other bodies first. So it comes through the astral, emotional, it comes through the mental and the causal. It enters the energy field of the person, and it manifests as dis-ease in the body, yes. No matter what it is.
Mm-hmm. So you turn around and say that the scientific community might actually, hopefully this year, come out and say, yeah, that's a valid field.
Yeah, there is a source, a Godhead, a source of all things.
Well, that was like that conversation I had with that Jehovah's Witness the other day.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
When I turned around and said to him that I find it egocentric to put a human name on a universal energy.
Well, it's very interesting that you said the words human name. I think we're going to have to take a break soon.
Yes, already.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is, when you mentioned human names, interesting, we'll come back and we'll discuss that a little bit differently.
Beyond,
3.
D. Welcome back this week, everyone, to our last show for the year on Beyond 3D. New Year's Eve, Matt.
Indeed.
We had to start early tonight because you and I both have lives.
In other words, we have New Year's Eve stuff to do. Part of which includes drinking.
Look at you searching for bottles of Scotch on the internet.
Oh, no. That is actually, if you look at that, that is sweet potato wine from Japan.
Okay. Nice.
Interesting things you can do with sweet potatoes. It can make really good pastas. Goes really good in ramen. You can drink it. You can eat it in its normal form. You can make pies out of it. It's really nice.
And you can throw them.
Yeah.
They hurt.
I can believe it. Anyway, we were talking earlier, before the break about names and things along those lines. And a question has always occurred to me, and I know the answer's out there on the internet and other places, but I just thought I'd bring it up. Who named this place Earth?
That is a human name. Mm-hmm. Okay. I asked you about 6 months ago, where did the name Gaia as the planet came from?
Mm-hmm. You did.
And I still can't find the answer.
Well, as far as Earth is concerned, their research done says the name's about 1,000 years old. And so the first question I ask, if it's 1,000 years old, what was it called before that? And so...
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try and answer that.
Okay.
If it was named Earth 1,000 years ago, that would be my understanding along the lines of the fact that 1,000 years ago, humans had a self-awareness, the fact that where they were had to have a name. So why not give it one? So we're talking about around the time of Galileo.
Well, let's see. What is it, 2016? Beyond? So 1016, what was back then? England was going, what was it? When was the Battle of Hastings? 1066? So we're talking about that kind of time. It's interesting. It's just, I think where I'd have to go with this is this. If they say Earth as a term came up 1,000 years ago, what did other cultures, because there were other cultures before that, what was their name in their vernacular, in their language for this place? And
that's if they had an understanding of an awareness that the planet was big enough to actually be given an identity.
Yeah, they might not have even known they were on a planet, per se. They just knew where they lived. I mean, they didn't take it any further.
Like I've said to you many times before, we call Saturn, and Jupiter, Jupiter. Mm-hmm. But in our little boondock area of the universe, it could have 1,000 different names.
That's the whole point. Well, those are named after what? Roman and Greek gods and all that kind of stuff.
Gods of war and, yep.
So what?
That's Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, the god of war. So what? I just got thinking about it. Where did these terms come from? Why do we call it what we call it? Why do we have to call it what we call it? Why can't we call it something else?
because it's in the common tongue now that it is what it is, though.
Common tongue crud.
I know these things.
Yeah, but come on. There's got to be more than just that. I mean, let's see here. I was looking it up. I remember this from my, in Hindu texts going way back more than 1,000 years. Any plane of existence is called a loka.
Okay.
And they used to call Earth Buloka.
Who's they? We're talking about Indian.
The so-called Indian gods.
Indian gods, yep.
Which, according to some people, were alien in origin.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked about that many times.
And so they called it Buloka, or the world of the lower world, the lower plane of existence, not in the heaven worlds. But there are other lokas as well. There's Satyaloka, there's Siddhaloka, the world of perfection. There's many different ones out there. This was the world of the mundane, so to speak. So it had different names. Dada in Sanskrit as well was a name for the earth. The Egyptians used to call it Geb or Keb. It's another Stargate reference. It makes you wonder what these guys are thinking about that do science fiction.
Oh, they definitely pull from history.
Without a doubt.
They have to.
Without a doubt. And that's a very main point.
And not just history, but also information that's released slowly drip-fed through Hollywood so that we can get a bit more of a slight splinter closer to disclosure and not be so freaked out when it all happens in one big bang.
Mm-hmm. And that leads to, all right, why is the moon called the moon? What about the two other bodies that circle or are entrapped by this Earth that no one ever talks about?
Well, hang on. Isn't the moon called the moon because it's a satellite?
Yeah, sort of, kind of, but still. What is it really? Is it really a satellite or is it a spaceship?
The hollow moon can still be a satellite.
Well,
there's plenty of evidence that it's been dragged into our orbit.
Yeah, and it's bigger than it should be.
And it rings like a bell.
Mm-hmm. When you drop stuff. It's interesting, the whole situation around this so-called Earth that we live on and what's going on with it. So that, to me, I think is one of the things that is going to really come to the forefront in 2017 going forward from there. Disclosure insofar as what is this place really about? We mentioned Antarctica, very important point. There's a lot going on down there, and a lot of people think there is stuff under that ice that would amaze. And that would make a lot of sense.
You know, I found a really, really interesting picture this week. I'm going to pass it across to you. I'm going to show it to you on air.
Okay.
And then when you finish looking at it, I'm going to post it on Facebook.
Cool.
Have a look at that. This is a picture, two separate pictures. One's taken from ancient ruins in Ecuador.
Right.
And the other's taken from ancient ruins in Mesopotamia.
Right.
Have a look at that. What can you see?
Same darn thing.
Yeah.
Different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Exactly the same thing. And that is a bird-like entity, almost identical, found in two separate locations around the planet in two separate time periods.
Now let me ask you a question about that picture.
Yes.
Extrapolate a bit. If you were to take that being and have it go down on the ground.
I'm listening, I'm just posting it.
And have it go down on the ground.
Yes.
So, you know, like lying out in front. So the face is out in front and the body is behind it.
Yes.
Now, think of Egypt.
Sphinx.
Yep.
Yep.
Because the Sphinx, everybody's looking at the Sphinx, but what's missing from the Sphinx is the wings. And I've said that before on the show as well. And so...
Well, a lot of Egyptian archaeology and monuments and statues do have wings on them.
And you can also tie that to other things biblically as well that were going on. But that's very interesting, and that's the whole point. And being that you brought that one up, there's a whole lot of other interesting things that I have written down for myself here that I wanted to go over. One of them being another place in South America. So Machu Picchu. Now, a lot of people say that is a portal area to other dimensions.
Like Mount Shasta?
Like Mount Shasta, exactly. Now, this was discovered, I wrote it down here, circa 1911 was when they rediscovered this place. So, built, where they say, 15th century?
Okay.
I think a lot of these areas going forward are going to start, for lack of a better term, turning on.
Okay.
And a lot of people who go to these areas are going to also start turning on, because what it's going to do, when it switches itself on, it's going to switch certain things within the DNA of certain people and awaken them to what's actually going on.
I do know that 2017 is supposed to be a year that does turn on that spiritual button in a lot of people. So that's going to be really cool to look forward to.
I think so. So you have Machu Picchu. You have, what's the one in Turkey? Gobekli Tepe?
Gobekli Tepe.
Potbelly Hill. Now they say that's about 12,000 years old.
I love the fact that they try to label a time period on it where recently a lot of these monuments and structures and that, they've come out and said, no, these things were built hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Exactly.
Like, our human history is totally out of whack.
Yep.
Time wise, it's out of whack.
Yeah.
What we're taught in school is not
even close.
Factual.
Not even close. And that's what bugs me. Because once you start doing the research on things like this and you see what's actually going on out there, you start to say, well, why the heck what are you teaching me? And this is the whole thing. And I know you as a teacher, that must frustrate you to no end.
No.
No?
No, it doesn't frustrate me, because I know that there are two parallel narratives going on.
Fair enough. Yeah.
There's the narrative that you're taught in school, where you're given these human written facts on what happened in the past, and you are meant to invest in that and bank it and go, okay, well, that's how the pyramids were built. Those blocks were rolled on giant logs through sand. They didn't get bogged at all.
No.
And it is what it is. And then we realise the fact that you look at a lot of stone monuments these days, we don't even have the equipment or the technology to cut the stone in the intricate way that they were cobbled together with the weight and the tonnage itself. We just physically can't even move it with equipment that we have today.
Yeah, I know.
So how did they do that back then? It wasn't done by human hands.
No, there's other things going on.
But those dual narratives, there's the alternative narrative, which is what we sit here and talk about, which has more grounding in reality, because there are less questions that go with it than what the textbooks tell you. I mean, you look at something like the pyramids of Giza, and the textbooks will tell you that they were built this way. But if you were to accept that, there is 1,000 more questions that come with it that don't make any sense. You're just nodding your head.
Build one now. That's the first thing that popped into my head.
But they can't build one now.
That's the whole point.
So don't tell me that it was made by human hands pushing giant rocks on logs in bogged down sand.
Yeah, that's why I just said build one now. The other thing about Egypt that's interesting is what is under the sand.
Well, they're still discovering that, aren't they?
That's the whole point. You have a whole sandy... It's just like the Antarctic. It's covered in snow and ice. What's underneath it? When it thaws out, what happens? What's there? I think that's very important.
More than likely a big hole into the inner earth.
There was a show on... I'm trying to remember it. It was this week. Another thing I saw this week, and they were talking about from space... There's an area in the Antarctic that there is no possible way it could have the magnetic resonance that it has without there being something buried under that ice that hit this planet and is still there and giving off that kind of a field, to the point where satellites in space have to adjust themselves because of this resonance that's coming out of this place. Fascinating stuff going on down and under there.
We have to take a break.
Okay, then that's what we should do.
Beyond
3.
D. Welcome back this week, everyone, on our New Year's Eve show on Beyond 3D. And if you wish to join our Facebook page, it is Beyond the number 3-D on Facebook.
Yep. Absolutely. Back to my monument thingies.
Back to it.
Another place that I've always been interested in, Japan. I love the place. But they have the Yonaguni monuments off of Okinawa in the old Ryukyu.
I haven't been down that far.
I'll tell you what, when you look, I'll put a photo up of this as well. Spectacular, under the water, at least, and again, dating 10,000 years old. And I'm just noticing different patterns that are coming out. So the patterns I was noticing with this is you have Gobekli Tepe, Turkey, those areas. You have Machu Picchu, you have Peru, you have Japan, you have Egypt, you have Mohenjo-Daro, all these ancient civilizations in India. You have, I put down here, South Africa and what's going on down there with the different things with they're finding with the different tribes, and going back to Credo Mutwa and all the things they're talking about in Lesotho and that area, and all the fact that aliens came down and helped them. Afghanistan with the giants, cryptozoology again in a sense. You have China, the terracotta soldiers and everything that they have found.
Yes.
I have here Persia, including the fact that the United States started the Gulf War because they needed to get into the Baghdad Museum to take out some technology that nobody knew they wanted to take.
Yes, and a lot of people don't actually know about that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, a lot of the Gulf War was hidden behind, the Bushes had interest in the oil at the time, but I think they killed a lot of birds with the one stone by going in there and doing that.
But certain things have never changed over the years. Everybody talks about the Nazi movement and the fact that Hitler was totally into the occult. Well, more Goebbels was into the occult and everything like that. And they wanted to have, what was it, the three things that they needed? They needed the Holy Grail, like from the Indiana Jones movies, basically. They needed, what is it called? That's the spear, the sword that stabs Christ.
It is called the Spear of Longinus.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it's called. I'll have to look it up.
Spear of Destiny.
Spear of Destiny. That's
you.
it. And there's another one. When we talk about these different things going on with the Bushes and what's going on in Iraq, the same thing happened with Hitler and the Nazi Party back in the 30s and the 40s when they went looking for the Spear of Destiny, when they went looking for the Holy Grail, and they went looking for the Ghent altarpiece, because they knew if an army carried those things, it could not be defeated in any way, shape, or form.
Stop right there. You're Adolf Hitler. You're the leader of the Third Reich.
Yep.
You are trying to conquer the world. You're not going to waste time looking for artifacts that don't actually work.
Oh, I think they work.
Oh, I know they work, but what I'm saying is, unless they did work, you wouldn't spend your time pursuing that and your resources unless there was a valid reason for doing so, unless there was some validity in those actions.
You would think so. Well, I think so.
And then wander down to Antarctica and...
Exactly, and then who knows what they found down there, but according to Admiral Byrd, it basically wiped out 2/3 of his force, or the fleet that went down there to investigate what was going on in Antarctica. But so you have a situation where even to this day, and I think going forward, there are places of power, there are weapons of power, for lack of a better term, that certain governments and that certain elites want to possess because it will give them, as far as they are concerned, unlimited power, an edge in whatever they wanted to do, and they would be able to control. And so that, I think, is a very important thing going forward, especially when I look at the new administration coming into the United States and what they are going to try to accomplish or what they won't accomplish. I think it's going to be a very interesting 4 years.
Well, the FBI stopped a false flag alien invasion via Project Bluebeam to aid Trump in his victory.
Well, we don't have to worry about that anymore.
And I did post the other week
I saw
that Bluebeam technology on our Facebook page.
That's brilliant.
Giant blue whale coming out of a gym floor and crashing in front of all those kids. And how realistic did that look?
As realistic as it gets.
Looked like a real blue whale.
So you put a alien fleet up there, it will look just as real to people. So all of a sudden, wow. So these are the things I think that we will concentrate on a bit, get more in-depth information to, but especially the other one that needs disclosure is the UFO phenomenon. I am of the mind, two things. If you can see a physical ship in and around this planet Earth, it's more than likely military, or the military-industrial complex. That is what I believe, 9 out of 10 times. The stuff that you see around the moon, the stuff that you see out in space, totally different scenario.
I haven't told you this yet.
Go for it. I'm listening.
I saw a UAP this week.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Ooh.
Yes, I did.
What did you see? Where? What, where, when, how?
It was southeast, headed southeast. I I frequently stargaze at night. You know, what better way to spend your time unwinding at night is sitting outside and looking at a nice clear sky full of stars. And I've been doing that all year and have seen nothing. See the old satellite pass over? We all know what a satellite looks like. It just goes in a straight line. This thing zigzagged all over the sky and then just disappeared. And I went, thank you. I've been waiting all year to see something. You talk every week, keep your eye on the skies and have a look up. And, you know, I've been doing that all year and I've seen nothing. And just this week gone, I saw something just zigzag across the sky and I went, that is not a plane, that is not a bird, that is not a satellite.
Not a laser?
Not a laser. No, it wasn't definitely wasn't a laser.
That's what I was going to ask you.
No.
Yeah, great. So it's high up enough that you know.
It was high up enough that I know. And the reason I spotted it was because, I don't know about you, but when I stargaze, I'll focus on a cluster and hold my vision on that cluster. And if nothing shifts, I'll move across to another cluster.
Okay, yeah.
And I just do that randomly through the sky. And a couple of times over my life, I've spotted things in the sky by doing that. And the other night I saw something and I went, oh, wow, that's cool. Not a satellite. It's not moving in a straight trajectory. It's zigzagging backwards and forwards across the sky. So it was very, very cool.
Nice. Well, I think that's another thing that'll happen. I'm not talking Stephen Greer disclosure necessarily. I'm talking more along the lines of people like you, people like me, actually looking up and seeing these things and then having to get through all the dross and all their disbelief to finally say, wow, I did see something that I can't explain.
You mentioned Stephen Greer. I strongly believe this year that his entire disclosure project is going to hit the nitrous and turbo full on into the mainstream. I can see that happening this year.
It would be very nice if it did.
It's just built up so much momentum.
It has built up momentum, but I think the only thing I'll say what comes into my head, the thing that can stop that is the administration coming through now. That can be to its detriment.
But as we've seen in the past, that people power far outweighs government.
Yeah, which is why we're going to have to disregard what government is stating and what government is saying. Now, I want, hopefully, the administration coming in the United States to reintroduce a shuttle program. I do not believe that the United States should have to rely on Kazakhstan to launch any personnel from the United States into the International Space Station.
I'm not knocking Kazakhstan. I'm not knocking Kazakhstan. But if you were to put your hopes and dreams into a space program, I wouldn't be picking a country that doesn't have a strong history in space.
Oh, beautiful cities over there.
I wasn't talking
lovely kind of topography, but we're talking about infrastructure and experience,
technology,
and what they're doing. Yeah, come on. I also know we're not naive enough in this show to know that the United States is still sending personnel into space,
off planet.
Yeah, into space, no problem. We're talking about the public space program, where all our little kiddies get to go out and wave flags and watch people take off. And
that's not happening anymore, Matt. I can tell you now, that will not happen.
No.
There'll be no more astronauts. There's no more shuttle trips.
Why not?
Because of money. Because the US government's not going to go, okay, look at Trump. He's cutting things right, left, and center, slashing programs, slashing budgets. He's not going to go, all right, let's pump billions of dollars back into a space program that already exists off the books.
Yeah, well, that's true. It is off the books. That's a shame, though. It would be nice so the kids can go up and watch the rockets go up and go to the moon again. I do think they need to go to the moon again, so, I hope.
So do I. But we both know they go much further than that.
Oh, come on. They leave the solar system.
I've actually got a really, really cool story about the secret space program, but I am not going to do it tonight. We'll wait till the new year.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
We have to take a break.
Do we? Oh, man, look at the clock. Okay. We'll see you on the other side of this break, guys.
Beyond 3.
Welcome back to the New Year's Eve 2016 edition of Beyond 3D. Matt and Clint here with you. Clint,
That's me.
Yeah,
Approach the bench,
being
your
that,
worship.
yeah, thank you. Thinking of Earth again, once again, and I was going over a few different things, and this is in regards to, well, when you go back and you look at what was going on in the ancient cultures. So we have here in Australia, you have probably the oldest human culture going.
That's actually been proven. That the Aboriginal culture is
Yeah.
the oldest historical culture on this planet.
400,000 years plus.
Plus,
Yeah.
only because they can't go back any further.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because when you look at this, what we now call Earth, and the way it had the one big continent, and that tectonic stresses separated.
Gondwana.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
Yep.
You know what? If I could go back to any time period, that's what I want to go back and see.
Watch how they...
Emus the size of 4-story buildings.
Well, interestingly enough, the way it's split up is interesting insofar as Eurasia and North America went one way and everything else went another and then swung around. But it was very interesting. Yeah, Africa, South America, India, Australia, Antarctica, which you have to add in there, went one way, and then Eurasia and North America broke off in another direction. I'll put a little photograph up of that on the Facebook page as well, and people can take a look.
You mentioned the Aboriginal culture
Yeah.
before. One of my favourite images is a cave painting of ancient aliens from an Aboriginal cave. Give me a second, I'll just find it.
Nice.
I'll find it. Hang on.
While Clint's looking for that, there's another little thing I wanted to mention. Earth changes, and this continent we call Australia. We all know the rock, we all know Uluru. We know Katajuta as well, the spiritual centers. But the thing about Uluru that's really interesting is the fact that over the Earth changes, it used to be on its side, actually, and it actually righted itself and came up over a period of millions of years. I always found that interesting. How the Earth shifted so much that this rock, which is basically, if you think of a pen standing straight up, all of a sudden it goes and turns itself on the horizontal.
Could it not have been... Hang on. No, we spoke the other week about it being eroded by water. So is it not possible that it was standing up at one point, eroded by water, and then it laid down?
Could be. Which would mean there's a heck... And that would mean basically the desert we know as the center of this country could have been...
Oh, full of life.
Exactly.
Green as green could be.
Exactly.
I mean, you look at Ayers Rock today, with all the skill that Aboriginal people have, it'd still be hard-pressed to survive out there in such a harsh environment. So you would imagine back in the day, it being a thriving oasis, able to support large communities of early Australian Aboriginals.
And the other thing I did a few months back, but I did something very interesting, at least interesting for me. We were at a barbecue, and one of our friends brought the ever-popular Witchetty grubs.
Oh, did you try one?
I did.
Peanut butter?
Yes.
Haha.
Peanut butter prawns.
That's what it tasted like to
Yes.
you? Yeah.
Peanut butter and prawns.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm not a fan of peanut butter, but for shits and giggles every now and again, I will bite on one in front of people just to get a reaction.
It was interesting, the guys that would try them and the guys that wouldn't, and I looked at it and I said, oh, what the heck?
Yep.
Throw them in.
And a
Not bad.
Witchetty grub is a larva form of a moth.
Yeah, big. Nice,
Yeah.
big and juicy. And you put them on the barbecue, toast them up a bit, and chomp on them.
You know, people would be horrified right now.
I'll put one up on the Facebook page. You can see what we eat down here.
I think it's a rite of passage.
Oh, you
eat
have to try
one
it.
Witchetty
You
grub
have to try it once.
once.
It's not as bad as eating a cockroach or something like that.
It's all about perspective, man.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective. For
I
some
just-
people, it's a staple diet.
Yes, it's for some people, they wouldn't go near it. But it was absolutely a lot of fun. But yeah, we here in the Southern Hemisphere have one of the most ancient cultures going. And we owe it to ourselves. And I think going forward, we are going to have to reach out, and we'll have to do this with this show. We need to reach out to some of the elders and get the truth about what was really going on back then. And
I actually know somebody who we can do this with.
And the thing I'd like to do with it, it's not just a story about how Dreamtime was. The tools, the techniques, what they're using as far as their their spiritual practice.
Do you know what a Wommera is?
I know the name Wommera, but I'm not sure the meaning you're saying.
A Wommera is an attachment that goes on the end of a hunting spear, and it acts as leverage to propel the spear even further.
Okay.
So you hold onto the handle of the Wommera. It comes out in like a hook, and the butt of the spear sits in the hook, and it helps you project the spear even further. I have a friend who is an Aboriginal elder, and he was telling me that to make a Wommera, it takes decades, because what they have to do is they find a tree and they kind of bonsai the tree in a type of shape so that as it grows, the hook of the Wommera grows naturally in the shape of the tree. And then when it gets to a certain length and size, then they cut it down and shape it into what it needs to be.
Well,
and I had no idea about that.
That's interesting. Something we have to do for 2017. We need, and I think that would be a fantastic thing to do, and it's a point of difference if we can get certain things cannot be revealed.
And this person,
obviously,
also worked in the army.
Oh, even better.
And his job was to patrol the top of Kakadu.
Even better.
And many times he saw things he wasn't supposed to and told to keep his mouth shut.
Well, he still might need to keep his mouth shut when it comes to things like that.
No, we can give him a non-deplume when he comes in.
Absolutely, but that's something that's definitely worth doing because 2017 for us is about growth, and it's not just this show's growth, it's about spiritual growth.
And that has to be painful sometimes too.
Yeah.
Has to be.
That's what I think is good about the current administration. If the truth comes out because of these people, it can hurt, but growth will happen. I think that's very important. And so we need to talk to, and we used to do this in the Caribbean a lot, you talk to the elders always to get the information. And it was usually oral. It wasn't written down. You talk to all of the people that have been through certain things because you get a totally different experience from some professor sitting up just doing research. You want somebody that's been on the ground, somebody who's gone through it. Very important. Very, very important. Because all is not as it seems when we talk about this Earth. And
when is it?
Never has been. Yeah, exactly.
When is it?
So, yeah.
You know in The Matrix when Morpheus says to Neo, you can take the red pill or the blue pill? Well, that pill's been taken.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go back in the bubble.
No, it's not going to happen. That's the whole point. Once you take it, the other one disappears. It doesn't exist anymore. So therefore...
There is no spoon.
New reality. Speaking of spoons, that spoon they found on Mars.
Nice segue, Matt. Hang on a minute. Let me just golf clap that, because I had no idea you were going to bring that up.
Well, I saw it, and I was like, now, wait a minute.
Can you enlighten our listeners a little bit more? Because I saw that too.
The Mars rover, in one of its panoramic pictures, as you zoom in, you see... on the ground, what can only be described as a spoon.
I know.
And I'm like, okay. And they're talking, and you just, I'm of the mind, and I think you are as well, human beings, in my opinion, lived on that planet a long, long, long time ago.
Before the Earth was even the Earth.
Yeah. Earth could have been still forming, in a sense, around certain things, being that it was in a different zone, and there was that other planet that was in between the two now, which is known as the asteroid belt. What was the name of that planet? I believe it's Tiamat. And that is supposedly what is the asteroid belt now.
What? Hang on, so the asteroid belt was Tiamat?
I think so. The late great planet Tiamat.
You were on the money.
For a change. So that's what I think personally. Oh, look. I look at this solar system and I can say every single solitary planet had a life of some form on it, in it, or around it at one point in time. That's the way I look at it. Disprove it.
It's not our place or anyone's place to disprove it. Give me proof why it isn't.
Yeah, the scientists go, we don't see anything up there, and I'm going, you're not looking hard enough, because... Now, look, that spoon, guys, I'll put the picture up. You tell me it's not a spoon. Tell me what the heck it is. That is the most ridiculous thing you'd ever want to see.
I can understand if it was a pair of chopsticks.
No.
No. Spoon.
An absolute positive spoon. That was ridiculous. So now... Clink. Really?
Yeah, we have to pull for a break already.
Okay.
Beyond.
3.
D.
We're back. Beyond 3D. New Year's. 2016 going into 2017. Mundane. A little bit mundane.
Okay.
Okay. Teeny bit.
Okay.
Trending for 2017.
Yes.
Something near and dear to your heart. We'll start with the bottom bits.
Oh, that's where I live.
Not the bottom. You come on. In other words...
The only way is up.
The only way is up. Okay. VR, AR, and MR.
Oh, hello. Sony PlayStation is heavily pushing VR at the moment.
Yeah. I even saw on Amazon they have the cardboard box. I think it's called the box. And it's like these glasses you build and you can put on and it's VR, virtual reality.
Out of a cardboard box.
Yeah.
How cheap.
Right. It's $11.99 or something like that.
Yeah, I suppose make it affordable for everybody.
Well, mixed reality and artificial intelligence and all that kind of stuff is going on as well.
But that happens anyway. You put a bionic arm on an amputee.
What about things like Google Tilt?
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, like, sometimes you'll get a Google Tilt image. Let's say you mentioned earlier Gobekli Tepe. You tilt your camera around and then you go, well, that's not enough. I want to go into one of those doorways. I want to go into one of those buildings. I want to move forward into the VR. I don't want to just go left and right. Early days with the tech, I get that.
Well, we will see how that goes, but I think that is going to be a big trend going forward. The other thing being that we're talking basically millennials and not as much the guys in their 40s and 50s yet, but the 20s and the 30-year-olds. They're more into this kind of thing, I think, at least. I might be wrong. I know my daughter's into it a lot. What's going on with not necessarily virtual reality things, but they're more into social networking. And I think that's going to be a very important trend, but how it takes shape, because people now want some, for lack of a better term, anonymity.
Oh, definitely.
When it comes to what's going on online and everything like that. That's very important to people.
But with the mass global surveillance, anonymity these days is going to be even harder.
Well, that's the point. So they're going to have to come up. So therefore, for trend, if you're a company and you can come up with something that will help people in that regard, you should do very well for yourselves. Back to other different trends and things like that. Positive action is very important for people.
Global communities coming together.
Yeah, that's very important for people. Now, I wrote one down. Beer. I love beer. Tiger beer. They're doing these things that are very interesting.
Okay, you got my interest.
They are coming up with pop-up stores.
Okay, yep.
All around the place. We have them down here on the peninsula and things like that. And what they're doing is not what you would think. It's not a pop-up bar. They're taking, being that they're a Singaporean company.
Yes.
And they're taking Asian things, Asian art. What is it? Art, fashion. What is that?
So we're talking like a pop-up store, and it might have a theme. So it'll have. So you say an Asian theme. So we're looking at beer, art, technology, all that type of stuff happening in the pop-up.
Design, technology. Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And what they were doing was, in order to get into this pop-up store, they did one in New York. You had to have a Tiger beer coaster, and you could get into this pop-up store. The thing about it was they had 700 different artists and items available at these different sessions, and each session sold out of all of its stuff within an hour.
That's great. And that's a new way of doing business.
It's a new way of doing business, and those kind of things are going to start to come around as well. So, and I think with everything that's been going on lately with Brexit and with the U.S. election and with the French election and coming up and with the Italian scenarios, I think a lot of people are going to be the antithesis of that. They're going to go against nationalism and they're going to embrace globalism again. They want people, especially with DNA testing, and people are finding out that there's a lot more going on within them than they thought.
The best DNA testing I ever saw was a white supremacist who found out he had black DNA. And truth being smashed, his reality being smashed like that, was highly entertaining watching him struggle with his own origins because his belief system was so white and so racist.
Yeah.
And they went, well, you've actually got African DNA in you. And he was like, no, totally in denial.
Good.
But, that's one of those things that can only bring people together more so.
Well, that's what I'm looking at. I mean, I'm seeing everything is about nationalism now, and I'm like, no, it shouldn't be about that. I mean, I know people don't want the so-called George Soros global system.
No, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. That's not a global system. That's a tyranny.
That's a reptilian overlord wanting to dominate
Exactly.
all of us.
That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for more of a people are willing to share ideas. People are willing to do the thing that is right for them. So, being that we have had, let's call it a rough 2016 this year, we want not just 2017, but we want the next decade, everything going forward, to move us forward as well. We want people to learn their spiritual origins. We want people to learn their intergalactic origins. We want people to know exactly what is going on underneath their feet.
Pause. When you say intergalactic origins, the best organisation to champion that at the moment is the Catholic Church, who have started to drip feed that. Now, mind you, my opinion of the Catholic Church, it's just my opinion of the Catholic Church. I think they're a secret satanic cult.
Part of it.
That's just my opinion. And I know I've smashed a lot of people's realities in saying something like that. But if you go back through history and you look at a lot of the imperial evidence, and even today.
Look, all you have to do is say the Borgias.
Yes.
And the Pope line, and it's over.
It's over.
They were, as bad as it gets. There's already been a black pope who was actually an illegitimate son of one of the Borgias, and he didn't last very long, but he was pope. A lot was going on back then in the church. The church ruled, and then they compartmentalized, and they did the exact same thing governments do today.
Show me one religion in history that ever benefited the mass.
I'd have to think about that.
You couldn't.
I'd literally have to think about it. There's got to be one. Even Buddhism has been overtaken by certain things.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, interesting. Fighting amongst each other. And even if you found a religion that you could say is benevolent towards the people that it serves.
I think the only religion, Matt, at the end of the day, is spirituality.
Yeah.
Where everybody is an equal.
Well, everybody is equal. It's just that they don't know it because the religions have basically compartmentalized everybody to the point and kept people fighting against each other.
But most religions are created from a human perspective as well. Whereas when you talk about spirituality, that is an energy perspective.
It's beyond the human form.
Yes,
it's beyond the four, yeah. So you have to take it from that point of view. And there are people that are doing that, and they're going to get out there, and they're going to finally realize that. But I think what needs to happen is, in the scientific community especially, they need to stop poo-pooing the idea of God, and don't just think of it as some old white guy with a beard off at the edge of the universe. It's not that.
It's an energy.
It's energy, and it is the primordial energy from which all things come. But it is aware.
Now, science hasn't yet cracked mainstream science. I'll reiterate that. Mainstream science hasn't come out yet and cracked what is the glue that holds the universe and our vibrating atoms together. That is what the God source as an energy is allegedly meant to be.
Good point. Very good point. And I think what happens is if they have to acknowledge that, a lot of them lose their cushy jobs.
Absolutely.
And so therefore they don't want that to happen. But hey, 2016's done. We need to get the positive energy out there and go forward with it. That's the most important thing we need to do, and that's what we're going to do on this show without a doubt. So 2017, we're going to grow, and it is going to be a fantastic year for us going forward.
And we'll be back after this break for the last 10 minutes of our final show for the year. Beyond
3D.
Welcome back, guys. 2016 Beyond 3D New Year's Eve. And it's about that time where we're going to start to wind it down and get ready for 2017. But when you think about it, it's really only another day.
And thank you, everyone who contacted us during the week and enjoyed last week's War of the Worlds show that we played. And thank you to Steve Meyers from Soul to Soul for giving us that excellent recording.
Absolutely. Absolutely excellent. And all the guests that we've had this year.
Yes.
Thank each and every one of them as well, especially RAM.
Yes. Doc Ram.
Doc Ram.
He's been really, really busy. I wanted to get him in for our last show. Get him in. I wanted to call him over in Oregon, Portland, for our last show, but it just wasn't meant to be. He's incredibly busy at the moment.
Well, when we do call him, there's a person I need to find out if he knows. And if he knows this person, it would be very interesting to talk to her.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that for now.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to push you.
No. It would be very interesting, but I'll tell you after the show.
Sounds good.
I'll tell you after the show. The other things, guys, I put up a video on the Facebook page from Tyler at Secure Team. 10.
Yep.
About the moon and what's going on up there. I really think you need to take a look at it. We're always saying take a look up in the sky, especially take a look at the moon if you have a telescope just for about a half an hour or an hour, and you'll be amazed at what you see going on up there.
Secure Team 10 on YouTube.
Yep. You will love the things that are going on our own moon.
Or you might be slightly disturbed.
I don't think people will be disturbed. I think they'll be intrigued more than disturbed.
Well, if you think that the moon's just an orbiting planet that revolves around our planet, you would be disturbed by that.
Well,
if your reality was going to get smashed, that'd be a good one.
Well, it's there. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And I know I mentioned this earlier in the year. Even sages from India will tell you that there are people and beings and things going on the moon. Quite frankly. It's the closest thing we have. It's a really good place to look and observe, and I think that's what everybody needs to do. Get out there and observe what's going on as best you can. It's well worth the time that you would spend stargazing. It's really a lot of fun, and wow, the things you see. It's absolutely amazing. So, thanks to YouTube pages like Secure Team for the things that they do. It's a lot. We know what it takes to edit a show. And to edit video.
Don't even go there.
And to edit video, my God. So all the guys that are doing that kind of work, absolutely fantastic. It's appreciated. To all of the guys out there that are trying to do research that can bring this planet forward, many thanks to you as well. I mean, in the spiritual realms, helping children come along, because the school systems, depending on where you are in the world, can be a detriment to the mental health, let alone the physical health of a lot of kids out there. You have to be very careful with what the kids are being taught. And yeah, we also need to remember when it comes to our kids, and I know we know this now, and we were brought up differently a long time ago in the States and everything like that.
Someone's sending you a Happy New Year already.
No, it's not a Happy New Year already. I know what it is, though. From the edit point, video editing takes a monumental amount of time. So when you look at a video up on YouTube or something like that, sometimes people just cut and paste. Other times people do a lot, and a lot more of work than you could possibly imagine. So thank you to everyone that provides that information. For 2017, we are hoping that two things happen. Disclosure on the spiritual level, disclosure on the mundane level with UAPs and UFOs and cryptozoology. And we're also hoping what happens is those who are out there perpetrating hoaxes are found out and dealt with.
And I'll tell you what else I don't want to happen. Solar flares. Because if that actually, if a solar flare, a good solar flare, not that there is a good solar flare, hits our planet, it would be the equivalent to a EMP the size of Hiroshima.
Ouch. And the other thing, a lot of things are going on, not just on the moon, but on our sun, including a whole lot of big giant ships draining.
Drinking it dry.
Drinking it, yeah, literally filling up like you're at a gas station. So a lot of things are going on in our universe. We will do our best to bring you all the information that you need going forward. We will be there to support you with that information, and we need your participation as well. So what will happen in 2017 is a website will be created and will be up and running. You'll be able to get our old podcasts of all the shows.
Do you know, I was listening to one the other day.
Yes.
Because I have been slaving away, polishing polishing them all up.
Absolutely,
Because
that's the other thing.
our early shows, as cringeworthy as they are sometimes for me to listen to, but they do have a lot of content that's valid. So need to
As
give
we go along, it gets better and better.
a bit of spit and polish on them, so they'll be on the website as well.
Yeah. And that way you guys can participate. And as we have said before, any people that you think, especially on the Australian continent and New Zealand, any people you think that we need to get in contact with and talk to, drop us a line on the Facebook page at Facebook.
Or just look us up on Facebook under Beyond the number 3-ND.
That one, yeah.
That one. I think I get bamboozled sometimes.
Beyond -D. Or you can do a Google search.
Number 4 on Google.
4 on Google, people. And you can find us that way as well. So, look, it's been fun for us this year. We believe that 2017 and going forward, a lot of very interesting information, truthful information is going to come out, which is going to shift a lot of people's thinking. It's not all going to be positive.
And may I suggest that if you wish to contribute to the change in our world, find one person who you think would enjoy listening to our show. Because it only takes one person to find one person.
And keep it going.
And keep it going.
Yeah, build it up. Pay it forward, as they say. Because that's what we want, because that's the way we reach more people. And we're trying to do it from a pure space and from a truthful space. And we're going to find people that are doing the exact same thing. And then that way, worldwide, change happens.
I tell you what else I want to see come to light, Matt, is that alleged UFO that's sitting on the bottom of the Baltic Sea. That's been there for
been there for a while.
Been there for a while, and science can't get near it because all their equipment malfunctions whenever they sort of float above it.
Well, I think they're finding a lot of those things underwater. I think I mentioned earlier as far as off of Okinawa and the different structures they have under the water. And that structure actually looks UFO-like when you look at the way the rocks are designed down there. The Baltic anomaly, as you were just saying, is a very intriguing situation, but there's also another video that just came out a few hours ago, and it's talking about how on Google Earth you could go into the middle of the Pacific Ocean and you will find a mile-long crash site.
Under the ocean?
Under the ocean, on the ocean bottom, on the floor, and this thing slid for about a mile and came to rest at the bottom of the ocean floor. Skidded along the ocean floor for a mile. And there was another UAP report that came out of Puerto Rico, near Arecibo, the big radio telescope in the Caribbean. And they tracked this UFO from, I think it was a military radar tracking service, and you could actually see the photograph of this orb as it flew over. And as it went into the sea, it did not in any way, shape, or form slow down. The water did not do anything to slow this thing down, and it came above the ocean, went back down below, was all over the place.
So if I threw a golf ball into the ocean, obviously it's going to create some kind of resonance in the waves and splash up. Did this? No? It just went straight in and didn't cause a ripple?
Didn't cause a ripple, went straight through. You could see it going through the water, and it did not slow down 1 mile an hour, 1 kilometer an hour. It just kept on going at the exact same rate of speed in water as it would in air. It was absolutely amazing. And so a lot of things, as we know, are found underneath the water surface of this planet. So that's another thing that needs to...
Like Antarctica.
Yeah. And I think that's extremely important. People need to explore the oceans. It's very hard. A lot of pressure down there. But submarines, probes, you can send a probe into space, you can send a probe underneath the ocean surface and find that there's a lot of interesting things going on there.
And that is all we have time for this week, Matt.
Happy New Year, Clint. Happy New Year, all you guys out there.
Happy New Year to everybody too. And I think in honour of Carrie Fisher tonight, I have just found a fitting tribute to Princess Leia, her theme music played by the BBC Orchestra.
Nice.
So, goodbye 2016.
Good riddance 2016 in most instances.
And thank you, sincerely, everyone.
Yes, indeed.
tonight for following us every Saturday night. Matt and I have endeavoured to make sure we bring you fresh content every single weekend this year, and that is our commitment into the new year as
Absolutely.
well. So just pump up the tunes there, Matt, just a little bit, and we'll leave this with everybody tonight.
Excellent.
Be safe in the new year, everybody.
Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.